A Vermin Lord is the supreme manifestation of the SKAVEN sole demonic deity, the Horned Rat. These demons are by far the strongest and most fearsome the Under Empire has ever known. The Vermin Lords are thought to be the demonic forms of ancient SKAVEN, particularly Lords of Decay, warped by the influence of the Horned Rat into his immortal servants. A Vermin Lord is at once majestic and disgusting, a living icon of ruin, the ultimate scavenger. Although such a being towers in height, it is lithe and quick, its movements evoking the fluid yet twitchy scuttling of rats. Their heads are bedecked with the spiraling horns and sloughing flesh of the Horned Rat himself. Warpstone amulets and tomes decorate the Vermin Lord's leprous form, along with chunks of raw warpstone hammered into their flesh. They are often seen armed with huge, wicked-looking glaives that are fully twice the height of a man, but their chiseled teeth and sharp claws are easily capable of tearing a creature to pieces. Any onlooker finds that he cannot look away from the nightmarish creature, yet at the same time fervently hopes not to make eye contact. And this is wise, for even the passing attention of such an ancient and wicked being is enough to stop a man's heart. Few dare to meet a Vermin Lord's all-seeing gaze for even an instant, and none can hold it. A Vermin Lord is eternally calculating, a myriad of interweaving plots, ever seeking the best path towards some desired end. The creature is never still, constantly pacing, stopping to tilt its head as if sniffing for the future. When the time for action comes, however, the Vermin Lord manifests all the feral savagery of the SKAVEN race. Its rage is terrifying to behold, and few mortals can stand against it. Their sinuous body contains the might and strength to challenge a greater demon, and lesser creatures are swept aside in droves. At need, they can summon a powerful and wicked glaive, which they swing in deadly and unstoppable arcs. And now, onto the Vermin Lord types. The first type, the Vermin Lord Deceivers. Perhaps the least seen of all the Vermin Lords are the Deceivers, the Lords of Assassin, the shadows that kill. This is as they prefer it. It is not their way to barge about upon a battlefield like some clumsy warlord. Instead, their power lies in stealth. They move in clouds of shadow, obfuscating even those around them. Only when their intrigues are ripe will a Vermin Lord Deceiver step out of the darkness to strike. Out of nowhere they appear, moving with blurring swiftness. Into their uplifted hands they summon forth triple-bladed throwing stars. With a snap of the wrist, the Vermin Lord can fling the killing star, sending it to scythe down foes in a great circling arc. The flash of its passing can be seen, leaving decapitated victims and slicing off limbs in its wake. At the end of its circuitous flight, the Vermin Lord Deceiver will snatch it out of midair and throw it again in quick succession. Such is their agility, and their ability to rapidly displace themselves, that the creatures can even throw their weapons and catch them from some completely different part of the battlefield. In close combat, they favor the Warp Stiletto, a stabbing weapon the length of a man. Its steeply acuminated shape allows the blade to penetrate deep into a foe, where its toxic nature can do the most damage with great efficiency. Whilst common soldiers might batter each other ceaselessly with only a swift thrust from the Warp Stiletto, a Deceiver can fell any foe, no matter how large. And next, the second type, the Vermin Lord Corruptors, also known as the Pestilent Reapers and the Colors of Civilization. Vermin Lord Corruptors are disease-given form. They are surrounded by an aura of creeping sickness, and all around them, life withers away. The spread of plague is their craft, and at their command are the worst maladies in the world. With but a malicious glance, a Vermin Lord Corruptor can cause foes to break out into the rot-eye pox, the oozing twitch, or the Black Plague. There are none more malignant nor more uncompromising than these infested terrors. Of all the Vermin Lords, the Corruptors have severely decayed and consequently the least elaborate hordes, though simply mentioning this to one of these repulsive rat demons is certain to begin a vendetta that will last an eternity. Although not above a degree of skulking, Corruptors are more likely than any other Vermin Lords to be at the forefront of battle. They are zealots who incite extreme hate in others, proving especially effective in goading plague monks into an extreme frenzy. More sorcerous than most of their kin, the Corruptors can call down plague storms, shrivel skin, or vomit forth impossible gauges of noxious poisons. Should any foe live long enough to close in with a Vermin Lord Corruptor, their battle has only just begun. Living upon the greasy pelt of a Corruptor can be any number of tiny parasites, sting fleas, or three-eyed mites. They bite all who approach and infect their prey with bubonics, the flesh-bubbling disease that rots foes in minutes. As the foes reel, the Vermin Lord Corruptor will then summon forth a pair of Plague Reapers, sickle-like blades which it will use to eviscerate its enemies with a savage fury. And next, the third type, the Vermin Lord Warbringers, also known as Tyrants of Battle. and the great stabber slicers. The Verminlord Warbringers are the most commonly seen of the rat demons, and of all the Verminlords, none are so full of themselves and self-posturing. They have a fondness for dramatic entrances, such as arriving in clouds of smoke before mustering hordes of SKAVEN. They stride battle lines, towering over the rat men who cower in the presence of such majestic and terrible beings. Whenever possible, they strike heroic poses, with their sinuously curving horns thrust regally outwards, and their weapons glinting in the fires of battle. All of this preening is not merely pretentiousness on the part of these Verminlords, however. SKAVEN, particularly clan rats and storm vermin, rally to the awe-inspiring sight of these godly creatures. Thus can the presence of such a Verminlord steady even the most craven force. With each colossal stride of dramatic whip of the tail, the chittering tumult rising from the fighting hordes increases in its intensity. SKAVEN who bask in that verminous presence for long enough will be overcome by a bloodthirsty, teeth-snapping rage that they long to unleash upon the foe. The Warbringers are not zealous about leading from the front. They far prefer to stride amongst a seething tide of rat men, for they draw strength from being amongst their mortal underlings. When they reach the front line, few mortal creatures can match their speed or strength, and they are able to cut down whole ranks at a time with great sweeps from their doom glaives. When facing larger enemies, or delivering a dramatic coup de grace, a Warbringer will manifest an enormous spike fist, driving it through the foe and tearing out its entrails for all to see. And next, the fourth type, the Verminlord Warseers, also known as the Lords of Black Lightning and the Great Manipulators. The Verminlord Warseers are the most inscrutable of all the rat demons. Great leaders and visionaries, they are often found at the center of the most complex of plots. All Verminlords are manipulative, but the Warseers bring beguilement to new levels. Every syllable whispered, and every subtle nuance has been crafted to influence an end game that it alone can fathom. When a Verminlord Warper arrives in the world, it does so not with a plan, but with dozens, even hundreds of plots and intrigues. And it is not through words and schemes alone that a Verminlord Warseer will work its wild. When it comes to the arcane arts, the Warseers wield great power. All Verminlords can hurl black lightning, but when a Warseer does so, it is not alone bolts they cast, but vast, arcing chains of destruction. With a stomp of their clawed foot, they can open rifts, crack foundations, and topple the structures of the so-called civilized world. At their command, the vermin of the world swarm, forming tidal waves of rats. So powerful is their call that rodent kind from the Shadow Realms join the pack. and nothing can stop their chiseled teeth, for they are able to gnaw a soul from a body in seconds. They alone can summon forth a scry orb of enormous proportions. This sphere can be used to gaze into all possible futures, allowing the Vermin Lord to know the unknowable and see that which is beyond sight. A powerful boon as they plot the fall of their enemies and the fate of their allies. At times of great need, the Vermin Lord Warp Seer can hurl this swirling orb as a weapon, its destruction releasing a miasma of multiple futures and fumes of purest warpstone. Those caught within the blast are driven mad, reduced to utter feeble-mindedness by the nightmare visions they are gifted. And at last, onto the final type, the Exalted Verminlords. Recently come into my possession is a scroll purported to summon and command an Exalted Master of the Endless Host. I purchased the document from my contact in the Tourmaline Fellowship, who claimed to have acquired it from some Diestro recently returned from Talia, who claimed to have retrieved it himself from a ruined city swallowed by an enormous swamp. Old Hildegard tried to impress me with some gibberish about rats that walk like men. But I am no mere dabbler in the forbidden to be taken in by such mythical nonsense. Perhaps this creature is some kind of demon, fancifully named by an errant scholar. Yet according to the accompanying notes, the creature is lithe and possessed of horrifying vigor. This sounds unlike any demon I have yet encountered. It is an intriguing but easily solved mystery. It will take perhaps a day to set wars which will contain any demon born of the powers of chaos, and then we shall see exactly what this creature may be and what secrets I can wrest from it. The final pages of Maximilian von Wudich's journal, discovered in his blood-soaked mansion by witch hunters of the Order of Sigmar's Wrath. The Vermin Lords are the arch-demons of the SKAVEN god, the Horned Rat, and embody all that is foul and cruel in that misbegotten race of rat men, at once mighty and vile, cunning and savage. They are creatures of creeping decay and lightning-fast fury. They are ruin made manifest, huge yet lithe. Vermin Lords are horrific creatures to behold, somewhere in form between plague rat, human, and demon beast. No two are quite identical, but each is marked with the signs of rank and potency in the Horned Rat's service, with great spiraling horns crowning their heads and black burning blades and glaives clutched in their grasp. Even the lesser amongst their kind are beings of great power, malevolent intelligence, and incalculable malice. And for one to be summoned to the world of mortals is a dire matter that no Grey Seer engages into lightly and without fear. For a Vermin Lord is no brute beast to be controlled, but a being with its own agenda, and is wiser and more treacherous than any living SKAVEN could ever hope to be. But even within the ranks of such impossibly powerful entities, there are those whose dark majesty exceeds that of their brethren. These so-called Exalted Verminlords may only ever be summoned across the veil of realities in times of great slaughter, suffering and death, and when the winds of magic howl in tempest. Even more dangerous and intractable than their nightmare kin, they demand the death not of mere sacrifices or the carrion of the battlefield as their due, but rather the destruction of entire cities and the ruination of nations for their pleasure before their power is wedded to any cause, even that of the great lords of decay. Being a corporeal manifestation of the malignity of the Horned Rat, all of the Exalted Verminlord's attacks are magical. He wields a dire glaive and can unleash a cascade of withering green flame that corrodes metal and blisters flesh.